So today we are sitting with Dr. Stephen Bond, who is a book author. And in honor of Black History Month, he will be talking to us about his book that he wrote, which is called it's the Unsung but Forever Remembered. Now, that book is dedicated to his grandfather. His grandfather invented the turn signal, and this was back in the 1920s, correct?
Yes.
The 1920s. His grandfather did get a patent, but he was not able to renew the patent. And now someone else has taken the credit for his grandfather's invention. So we're going to get into that and some other things. Dr. Bond, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for being
So,
on here.
tell us first off. Let's start with, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Originally, I was born in Queens, New York, and I was raised in Long Island, New York, in Freeport. I lived in New York for 31 years, and then I taught in Florida for 10 years, and I've been down in North Carolina for about the last 9 years.
Okay, great. Now let's get into how did you start writing books? What was the inspiration?
Well, my first book was written about 3 years ago. It was a journal book slash history book that I had my students write called Perseverance in Strange Land. And there were journals that my students wrote about dealing with COVID and also when George Floyd was murdered. And so basically the students vented about how tough it was emotionally and socially when COVID ended schools and things like going to prom and field trips and going to school on a daily basis were taken away. And they also mentioned how hurt they were and frustrated and even angry they were when George Floyd got murdered. And I compiled all together and made a little history book out of it where I also have short biographies of leaders such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Shirley Chisholm, and a few other unsung history people that had impact. And that was my first book, and that was 3 years ago. And my second book, which is about my grandfather with the patent for student life for
Mhm.
cars.
Okay, now, so tell us a bit about the invention of the turn signal. What even got your father interested in inventing a turn signal in the first place?
Well, as my grandfather told me, several years ago, I was young. He told us that one day he was at a boarding school in a rural county in North Carolina called Bertie. And, 'cause back then the school was still segregated. He went to a boarding school for blacks. And at the age of 16, he just saw that there was a need for cars to have a signal light because accidents occurred on the road because you only did hand signals. You use your hand to stick out the window, no the signal
Mhm.
left or right. And he felt like there needs to be an invention for that. And also there needs to be a light that when you're braking, that the car in front of you knows you're braking. And so that was his inspiration for inventing the device.
Right. Now, I want to mention this interesting part that you had told me previously that he used to have to stick his hand out the window
Right.
at night. And, because he was dark, people
Hmm.
could not see his arm, you
Right.
know. Yeah, yeah, I thought that was real interesting right there.
Right.
Yeah, so he invented it, he went and got the patent, and then what
Mhm.
happened?
Well, at the age of 16, he started venting it at the boarding school. And so what happened, he got with his sisters, and two of his sisters were teachers. And so he wanted to make sure that legally he went through the right protocol and paper to get it patent. And so on, he put the paperwork in 1926. And by 1927, March 1st, he got a letter from the U.S. Patent Office that said it was legally done. There was a patent number, and it had his, description of the invention and his blueprints and drawing of the invention. So legally, he went through the right way, and it was certified by U.S. government that was his patent.
Okay, now, now tell us, how did the patent get revoked?
Well, here's what happened. It was, I guess, best term you could say, it was legally stolen. Unfortunately, so patents
Mhm.
have like expiration dates, like a driver's license. After a few years, you have to renew it. If not, someone back then legally could take the rights of it as if it was theirs. And so it was hard for him getting a seller for the invention because, being a black man in North Carolina, it could mean your life if too many people knew you had this invention. And he did get death threats. So as the years went by, it was starting to expire and he was trying to get the money to renew it. But he went to a few banks and all the banks in his county rejected him. And it was due to the fact he was African American. They didn't come out and say it, but that was reality. So after it expired, unfortunately, he lost the legal right to it. And the part I don't know, someone else brought the patent, and obviously they got the credit and also the money and proceeds for that invention. That's the sad part, and that's why I wrote this book because I felt he deserved the recognition and honor for making it.
Right. Now let me just mention this because some people may say, well, how would you respond? Okay, so if you stated that it was stolen, but then again, if it expired, some people may say, well, then it wasn't stolen. What would be your response to that?
Well, my response is I say, and I told a few people it was legally stolen because in the Jim Crow South, many African Americans had inventions. And basically, the way our government was, they would try to do whatever they could to make sure they didn't get the credit, especially not the money for it. And so, in regular circumstances, if you have $1 million, $1 billion invention like my grandfather had, and you go to a bank and ask for a loan, they'd give you the loan. Just like you have the TV show Shark Tank, where if you have an invention, you got those, you got the people in there that can help you get your invention exposed and known and get money and credit for it. So that's why I say legally stolen because, he went to three banks, no one would lend him the money. For several years, he tried to tell us about the invention and he was having problems just marketing it and just getting money for it or a contract for it. And it was due to the blatant racism that was in North Carolina at the time. And, there's still lynchings in North Carolina.
Right.
Still segregated schools. So it was a scary time for African American people.
Okay. Now, you mentioned to me also that you went through hoops to literally try to find this patent and locate it. So, could you tell us a little bit how you actually got your hands on it, and it's also in a book too, as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I finally found a patent, and it took months and months and months of research. And I called different places. I called U.S. Patent Office; they didn't know. I called the State Office of North Carolina; they didn't know. I tried to look up like articles in the newspapers in North Carolina; they didn't have it. So eventually, after extensive research, I was able to find it on a website. And the great thing about it is it has the U.S. certified patent number. It also has the date where it was confirmed as his patent, which was March 1st, 1927. Like it also has the signature that he put on the patent and also the lawyer's signature, which was like, in that case, it was like, confirming that it was a legal document. So he went through all the legal loopholes that was needed. So that's why when I did finally found it, I was relieved. I was excited. And I said, let me make sure I put this in a book so that those who read it know that it was legally done as he needed to do. He went through the legal protocol and he didn't invent it. And so there was no like doubts or issues on it. He did the right way, correct way.
Do you know who has the patent now?
Now, good question. One of the things, and it might be my next book, I've been asked this a few times. I would like to know who did buy the patent, who did get the monetary compensation for it. And for me, it's not bitterness or anger. It's just more of curiosity. I was just wondering, like, who was the person who saw that my grandfather invented this device, got the money for it, and let's be honest, they're probably rich today. So I'm just curious to wonder who did buy it and did receive the recognition for it. So to this day, I still wonder who did.
Do you believe that a white person bought the patent?
Now, from what I was told years ago, I think my grandfather did say they believe it was a white guy who did buy it. From what he did know, because I know he did keep tabs on who did buy it because obviously he was hurt and frustrated when it finally did when the patent expired. So I heard he did try to keep research on who did buy it, but to this day we officially don't know. But that's actually one of the next research projects I'm working on now is who did buy it.
Mhm.
Obviously this was in 1927.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you or your family members, do, do you guys, you know, feel a certain type of way that you're not able to take the credit for your grandfather's invention? Is that something that really hits a nerve with you? I mean, I know you said you're not angry, but does writing the book help release some of that, the feeling of not being able to benefit from the invention?
No, I will say that writing the book did help alleviate some feelings because
Okay.
I remember when my aunt is the oldest living relative from my grandfather. She's 85, and because my grandfather had 11 children, uh, only two of them are alive today. And so when I gave her a copy of the book, she started crying. So it did alleviate some of the, I guess, frustration and even some ways anger. And so when she saw a copy of the book, and the guy who did, the
Yes,
picture did an
that's
awesome job. He
yes,
got a
that's the
picture of my
book.
Yeah, he got a picture of my grandfather from about 1967 and digitalized it. And in the background, he shows like the signal light for cars and even the brake lights and stuff. And so when she saw it, and also in the book, that's I put a list of all his children, and she got
Mhm.
very emotional over it. She was like, "Wow, that's my father on that cover." I said, "Yes, it's my granddad." And so she cried for about 15 minutes. So
Wow,
emotionally, it did help her,
that's
and
good.
so I think did kind of calm down some of the feelings because there was from some family members anger, bitterness, and more of my grandfather more frustration because he would make other devices, but people would tell him, "Well, why try to get a patent? They stole your patent the first time. Why go through it again?" And so
Mhm.
he never patented anything else in his life. Now, one of his children, which was my uncle, did, but he never did, and it was just due to frustration. Like, why should I try again if I went through it the right way? And I still didn't get a benefit from it.
Right. So, I do believe, I do want to say this, that, if Oprah Winfrey was still doing her shows, I do believe that you would have been a guest on her show talking about this book, because this is really big,
Hmm.
but I also say if someone, has went through or is going through the same type of thing that, happened to your grandfather, or okay, and that happened to their relative, what advice would you give them, to try to get that credit of an invention that their family member has created, but it was stolen from them?
Well,
Because
what I
it happened so many times,
hmm
especially, many years ago. A lot of things were stolen from Black people. So, what advice would you give to them?
that's a great question. I would say go through research and find out what happened because one of the things I said the other day to someone, I said there's so many David George Bonds out there who had an invention, had patent, went through the different legal loopholes to get it done, and patent it, and either had it legally stolen or taken away from them. So I would advise anyone research, find out exactly what happened, how it happened, and
Mhm.
let the public know about it. Because in other words, if this wasn't published, not many people know about it now. In Bertie County, where my father's side is from, most people know the story. Most people know the story, but not much was said. So now it's on a book.
Mhm.
People all over the world now know what happened. So I would advise anyone, if you had someone in your family who did invent something, did have innovation, research it, get the facts straight, and have it published so that people know. Because even if you never get a single penny from it, at least it can, ease some tensions in the family or ease some hurt. Because I know for my aunt, she felt so much better. She smiled for like a straight hour when she saw that her father was
Right.
honored in a book.
Right. Now, where can people find your book? online in stores? Where are you at with that?
Right. Well, currently, right now, it is on Amazon. All you gotta look up is Unsung But Forever Remember, the man who invented the automobile turn single, David George Bond, and it's on Amazon right now, so you can purchase it there. And also, I'm in the works to see if I get it on Barnes and Nobles and also Walmart website, and that's what I'm working on now. But right now, currently, you can get it on Amazon. It's 13.99, and it's selling real well. And I'm just honored by the responses we're getting.
That's great. Now you also you get support from a few celebrities as well. Public Enemy is one of them.
Yes.
Um, and that's dope. How did that come about?
No, what's amazing is I actually know Public Enemy Chuck D from lived in Freeport, New York. I was raised in Freeport, Long Island, and so I saw Chuck D all the time, saw Flavor Flav, even Professor Griff from Public Enemy, and they're awesome brothers. And so my last book, Perseverance in Strange Land, um, Chuck D publicist saw it, and they put it on his and Public Enemy Facebook fan page, and there was like a couple thousand responses, and he was like, "Wow, this is awesome work." And
Yes.
so his publicist manager, they've supported my last few books, and they even put it on the social media pages. And for me, that just was a total honor to say the least, because Public Enemy has always been that group that advocated for justice and freedom and equality, and for them to be one of the groups that really endorsed the book, it's an awesome thing for me, definitely.
Right. Yeah, and when my book come in the mail, I will certainly post it as well, just to
Thank
support,
you.
Yes, absolutely. So now that the book is out, what is your goal now? Where do you plan on going with this?
Well, I plan to tell as many people by as possible, and I have. I've told many teachers, educators, and my family about it. And also, the mayor of Windsor, North Carolina, where my dad and grandfather did live,
Mhm.
he bought a couple copies of the book because he didn't know the story. And the mayor of Windsor, he's a white guy and awesome guy. I would tell him about the story, and he enjoyed hearing the story, but he was almost embarrassed that here he was the mayor of this town and didn't know about my grandfather. So he had supported the
Mm.
book. When they had the Christmas parade at Bertie County, that he's a part of, he had the book on display, and he made sure the county commissioners that he worked with, all six of them, got a copy of the book. So it's definitely spreading. And I'm also going to be in New York next month. I'm going to be at my high school library, Freeport, New York, and other areas of Long Island, Queens, and I'm also going to do a book sign up there as well. So just trying to spread the word about it as best I can, and it's been an awesome
Mhm.
experience so far.
Great. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about, so your up and coming projects that you have is, you're doing a book signing. Will you, at your childhood's library, where you grew up at the library there, you're doing the
Hmm.
book signing. Okay. Will you be doing any touring?
Well, I plan on touring a few high schools and middle schools there, because a lot of my friends are administrators and teachers all over, between Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island. So I plan on visiting them, and so they're excited about it. And I already
Okay.
had some. I already had some principals and leaders buy like bundles of my books, like the hundreds, and they now even wait to Black History Month. They're letting the students and teachers have books so they can see this little known Black history fact and invention. And so the word's spreading out pretty good, and I'm so happy about it.
Great. Do you see yourself maybe, going to different cities?
I
Um,
do,
okay. Okay.
and
That's go
and
ahead.
and what I'm gonna plan doing, when school is out, like for spring break, and also especially out for the summer, I definitely plan to, tour even more, because I do teach full time. I teach social studies and American government. So during my spring break and other times I have off, I would definitely, tour and travel, so that way the book will get out even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Now I do want to go into the other book that you have. Let us know the name of the second book that you wrote.
Hmm. And that was called Perseverance in a Strange Land. And basically, that was a compilation of journals that my students wrote. And In my class, I've always said student journal just about how they feel, if they're in a good mood, bad mood. Just it's a way of venting
Mhm.
and just any anger or any frustration they may have. So when school was closed March of 2020, I told them just to text me the journals or email them, what have you, because school was closed. And I saw so many good journals that really it touched my heart what they wrote, and I was like, this needs to be published because many times they ask about what the teachers think or what the adults think, but very often do people want to hear what the kids think. And so it became a great read. And like I said, there's even journals where they wrote about how they felt about George Floyd getting murdered and they watched it on TV and they saw how this was and that the
Mhm.
violence that should have never happened. And so just
Right.
seeing young people's opinion in a book was
Um,
amazing for people to read.
okay, now is that book on Amazon as well?
Yes, it is. It's called Perseverance in a Strange Land, the
Okay.
voices of the youth during the COVID-19 pandemic. And now that book is also on along with Amazon. It's also on Walmart and it's also on Barnes and Noble website as well.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Say if someone is interested in, they're a great writer, they want to become an author.
Hmm.
Um, it's more than just how do you go about getting the publishing and things of that sort to even, get it legally, um, you know,
Well,
um, how do they go? What is the process? Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I
Like
would
just a
say,
little rundown.
yeah, I'll probably say the best thing to do first is start writing what you have something written about what you really feel needs to be published.
Hmm.
And then what I would suggest, for most people, I would suggest doing the self-publishing route. Um, And then the self-publishing route, what you do, you pretty much getting people um, get it edited, get it looked at, and you could just do it on Amazon um, on the KDP publishing site, and that way you don't have to worry about spending thousands of dollars on publishing costs. What the best thing I would probably advise someone is if you get the idea for a book,
Hmm.
first of all, start writing it, and then make sure you have a good editor, someone who will proofread it to make sure there's no errors or mistakes.
Mm.
And then the self-publishing route on Amazon is not really that difficult. You can submit on Amazon. Make sure you always pay your copyright. Purchase the ISBN number, and that's not much between the copyright and ISBN. It's about
Hmm.
$260. It's not much, and so you can submit on Amazon, and literally in about 72 hours, it'll be on the website. And so that's how you have it self-published. Now, what you also would want, you want to make sure that you either have someone that can market it for you or market it yourself. And with social media, if it's a good read, all you gotta do is market it on social media. 'Cause if it's a good read and it's compelling, people are going to buy it. And so my advice to anyone is start writing, get a good proofreader and editor, and then just submit it yourself on Amazon because you don't have to worry about having eight, nine, $10,000 than to have it done. And that's just the best route. And most of my good friends and colleagues who have written books the last few years, most of them have gone the self-publishing route. And it's so much easier, so much sufficient, and it's a lot less drama too.
Right. Now, are you working on any new books?
Currently, I'm not, but I am been researching, trying to find out who did who did get my grandfather's patent, who did buy it, uh, what did credit or money did it get from it. So that's really been my next goal. And also, what I'm thinking about doing is adding on about how my grandfather's children, which was my dad and 10 other siblings, how they did during their life. Because the amazing thing about even though what my grandfather went through, his children did well, they were blessed. My grandpa left this earth still owning two homes. He did landscaping, and so he always kept a business going.
Do you know if the person that brought your grandfather's patent, are they capitalizing? off the invention?
Now, good question. I'm not for sure, and that's one of the things I'm researching. Now, I'm pretty sure if they did buy it, I'm sure they did capitalize off it. I'm pretty sure because obvious invention that's in all moving vehicles, cars. You look at a golf cart, you look at a forklift, all the moving vehicles do have a signal turn, and so I'm assuming that whoever bought it got a good payday out of it, and that might be my next book. But I'm curious to know who did and what's going on with their family now. So that's probably might be my next book coming up.
Okay. Well, is there anything that that you wanted to mention, before we, you know, in the call?
Well, the only thing I like to say is, please continue to support, the book about my grandfather, Unsung But Forever Remembered. Like I say, you can find it on Amazon. And like I said, more than anything, I'm just proud of the legacy he had because I knew my grandfather real well. He lived in North Carolina, but growing up in New York, we would visit at least once a year. And just to know him and know that he was a genius and that some people called him a prodigy because to invent something like this at the age of 16 and have legally patent by 20, it makes you wonder what more could have been. Like he could have probably invented more other things. So just continue to support the book. And also in your family, if you know anyone who may have invented something or created something, do the research, find out about it, and put it on
Right.
paper.
Right. And just to mention this too, you said your grandfather was 16 when he started this invention, correct?
Yes. Only
So that
16.
right there, wow. That lets you know you're never too young to start. So whatever your dreams are, as early as a teenager, you can start. So let everybody know where they can find you on social media. Can you let us know?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram on Dr. Stephen Bond and also on Twitter, Stephen Bond 74.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bond. It really was a pleasure speaking with you. And also, I really learned so much, and I had no idea about this. So I'm glad that, we got a chance to talk because, and I'm sure there's so many other people like me that don't even know that this happened, So this was very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
All right. And guys, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and also my website is www.delvinaspire.com and link is in the bio.